The Nehru family starts with the Mughal man named Ghiyasuddin Ghazi. He was the city Kotwal i.e. police officer of Delhi prior to the uprising of 1857, under the Mughal rule. After capturing Delhi in 1857, in the year of the mutiny, the British were slaughtering all Mughals everywhere. The British made a thorough search and killed every Mughal so that there were no future claimant to the throne of Delhi. So, the man Ghiyasuddin Ghazi, the word means Kafir killer, adopted a Hindu name Gangadhar Nehru and thus saved his life by the subterfuge. Ghiyasuddin Ghazi apparently used to reside on the bank of a canal, or Nair, near the Red Fort. Thus, he adopted the name Nehru as the family name. The 13th volume of the Encyclopedia of Indian War of Independence by M.K. Singh states it elaborately. The government of India have been hiding this fact. Ghazi Khan had 3 boys, the biggest Fazal Khan, after that Salim Khan, the smallest Moin Khan later, Moti Lal Nehru. Fazal Khan died on 14 years of age due to a disease. Salim Khan stayed in Kashmir after marriage. The descendants of the same Salim Khan descendant today are Farooq Abdullah and Omar Abdullah in Kashmir, which is with the Congress. Now it comes to Ghazi Khan's Ghazi Khan contested, but never won. After Ghazi Khan's death, Moin Khan became the Hindu for profit and kept his name Motilal Nehru. But he never won any election. Jawaharlal's father was Motilal and Motilal's father was Gangadhar Nehru. His wife was Kamala Kaul, who died in Switzerland of tuberculosis. M.O. Mathai in his book Reminiscences of the Nehru Age which opens secret of Jawaharlal Nehru relationship with a Benares girl. His relationship with several teens, Nehru was a playboy type, drinking wine, smoking with Edwina Mountbatten and others secretly. At the very beginning of his book, The Nehru Dynasty, astrologer K.N. Rao mentions the names of Jawaharlal's father and grandfather. Jawaharlal's father was believed to be Motilal and Motilal's father was one Gangadhar Nehru. And we all know that Jawaharlal's only daughter was Indira Priyadarshini Nehru. Kamala Nehru was her mother, who died in Switzerland of tuberculosis. She was totally against Indira's proposed marriage with Feroz. Why? No one tells us that. Now, who is this Feroz? We are told, by many that he was the son of the family grocer. The grocer supplied wines, etc. to Anand Bhavan, previously known as Ishrath Manzil, which once belonged to a Muslim lawyer named Mubarak Ali. Motilal was earlier an employee of Mubarak Ali. What was the family grocer's name? One frequently hears that Rajiv Gandhi's grandfather was Pandit Nehru. But then we all know that everyone has 2 grandfathers, the paternal and the maternal grandfathers. In fact, the paternal grandfather is deemed to be the more important grandfather in most societies. Why is it then nowhere we find Rajiv Gandhi's paternal grandfather's name? It appears that the reason is simply this. Rajiv Gandhi's paternal grandfather was a Muslim gentleman from the Junagadh area of Gujarat. This Muslim grocer by the name of Nawab Khan had married a Parsi woman after converting her to Islam. This is the source wherefrom the myth of Rajiv being a Parsi was derived. Rajiv's father Feroz was Feroz Khan before he married Indira, against Kamala Nehru's wishes. Feroz's mother's family name was Gandhi, often associated with Parsis, and this was changed to Gandhi, sometime before his wedding with Indira, by an affidavit. The fact of the matter is that, and this fact can be found in many writings, Indira was very lonely. Chased out of the Shantiniketan University by Guru Dev Rabindranath himself for misdemeanor, the lonely girl was all by herself, while Father Jawahar was busy with politics, pretty women, and illicit sex. The mother was in hospital. Feroz Khan, the grocer's son, was then in England and he was quite sympathetic to Indira, and soon enough she changed her religion, became a Muslim woman and married Feroz Khan in a London mosque. Nehru was not happy. Kamala was dead already or dying. The news of this marriage eventually reached Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Gandhi urgently called Nehru and practically ordered him to ask the young man to change his name from Khan to Gandhi. It had nothing to do with change of religion, from Islam to Hinduism for instance. It was just a case of a change of name by an affidavit. And so Feroz Khan became Feroz Gandhi. The surprising thing is that the Apostle of Truth, the old man soon to be declared India's Mahatma and the father of the nation, didn't mention this game of his in the famous book, My Experiments with Truth. Why? When they returned to India, a mock Vedic marriage was instituted for public consumption. On this subject, writes M.O. Mathai, a longtime private secretary of Nehru, in his renowned, but now suppressed by the Goy, Reminiscences of the Nehru Age on page 94, second paragraph. For some inexplicable reason, Nehru allowed the marriage to be performed according to Vedic rites in 1942. An interreligious and intercaste marriage under Vedic rites at that time was not valid in law. To be legal, it had to be a civil marriage. It's a known fact that after Rajiv's birth Indira and Feroz lived separately, but they were not divorced. Feroz used to harass Nehru frequently for money and also interfere in Nehru's political activities. Nehru got fed up and left instructions not to allow him into the Prime Minister's residence Trimurthy Bhavan. Mathai writes that the death of Feroz came as a relief to Nehru and Indira. The death of Feroz in 1960 before he could consolidate his own political forces is itself a mystery. Feroz had even planned to remarry. Those who try to keep tabs on our leaders in spite of all the suppressions and deliberate misinformation are aware of the fact that the second son of Indira, or Mrs. Feroz Khan, known as Sanjay Gandhi, was not the son of Feroz. He was the son of another Muslim gentleman, Muhammad Yunus. Here, in passing, we might mention that the second son was originally named Sanjeev. It rhymed with Rajiv, the elder brother's name. When he was arrested by the British police in England and his passport impounded for having stolen a car, it was changed to Sanjay. Krishna Menon was then India's High Commissioner in London. He offered to issue another passport to the felon who changed his name to Sanjay. Incidentally, Sanjay's marriage with the Sikh girl Menaka, now they call her Menka for Indira Gandhi, found the name of Lord Indra's court dancer rather offensive, took place quite surprisingly in Muhammad Yunus' house in New Delhi. And the marriage with Menaka, who was a model, she had modeled for Bombay dyeing wearing just a towel, was not so ordinary either. Sanjay was notorious in getting unwed young women pregnant. Menaka too was rendered pregnant by Sanjay. It was then that her father, Colonel Anand, threatened Sanjay with dire consequences if he did not marry her daughter. And that did the trick. Sanjay married Menaka. It was widely reported in Delhi at the time that Muhammad Yunus was unhappy at the marriage of Sanjay with Menaka. Apparently he had wanted to get him married with a Muslim girl of his choice. It was Muhammad Yunus who cried the most when Sanjay died in the plane accident. In Yunus' book, Persons, Passions and Politics, one discovers that baby Sanjay had been circumcised following Islamic custom, although the reason stated was phimosis. It was always believed that Sanjay used to blackmail Indira Gandhi, and due to this she used to turn a blind eye when Sanjay Gandhi started to run the country as though it were his personal fiefdom. Was he blackmailing her with the secret of who his real father was? When the news of Sanjay's death reached Indira Gandhi, the first thing she wanted to know was about the bunch of keys which Sanjay had with him. Nehru was no less a player in producing bastards. At least one case is very graphically described by M.O. Mathai in his Reminiscences of the Nehru Age, page 206. Mathai writes, in the autumn of 1948, India became free in 1947 and a great deal of work needed to be done. A young woman from Benares arrived in New Delhi as a sannyasin named Shraddha Mata, an assumed and not a real name. She was a Sanskrit scholar well versed in the ancient Indian scriptures and mythology. People, including MPs, thronged to her to hear her discourses. One day S.D. Upadhyaya, Nehru's old employee, brought a letter in Hindi from Shraddha Mata. Nehru gave her an interview in the PM's house. As she departed, I noticed, Mathai is speaking here, that she was young, shapely, and beautiful. Meetings with her became rather frequent, mostly after Nehru finished his work at night. During one of Nehru's visits to Lucknow, Shraddha Mata turned up there, and Upathyaya brought a letter from her as usual. Nehru sent her the reply, and she visited Nehru at midnight. Suddenly Shraddha disappeared. In November 1949 a convent in Bangalore sent a decent-looking person to Delhi with a bundle of letters. He said that a young woman from northern India arrived at the convent a few months ago and gave birth to a baby boy. She refused to divulge her name or give any particulars about herself. She left the convent as soon as she was well enough to move out but left the child behind. She however forgot to take with her a small cloth bundle in which, among other things, several letters in Hindi were found. The Mother Superior, who was a foreigner, had the letters examined, and was told they were from the Prime Minister. The person who brought the letters surrendered them. Mathai made discreet inquiries repeatedly about the boy but failed to get a clue about his whereabouts. Convents in such matters are extremely tight-lipped and secretive. Had I succeeded in locating the boy, I would have adopted him. He must have grown up as a Catholic Christian blissfully ignorant of who his father was. Coming back to Rajiv Gandhi, we all know now that he changed his so-called Parsi religion to become a Catholic to marry Sania Mano of Turin, Italy. Rajiv became Roberto. His daughter's name is Bianca and son's name is Rahul. Quite cleverly the same names are presented to the people of India as Priyanka and Rahul. What is amazing is the extent of our people's ignorance in such matters. The press conference that Rajiv Gandhi gave in London after taking over as Prime Minister of India was very informative. In this press conference, Rajiv boasted that he was not a Hindu but a Parsi. Mind you, speaking of the Parsi religion, he had no Parsi ancestor at all. His grandmother, father's mother, had turned Muslim after having abandoned the Parsi religion to marry Nawab Khan. It is the Western press that waged a blitz of misinformation on behalf of Rajiv. From the New York Times to the Los Angeles Times and the Washington Post, the big guns raised Rajiv to heaven. The children's encyclopedias recorded that Rajiv was a qualified mechanical engineer from the revered University of Cambridge. No doubt US kids are among the most misinformed in the world today. The reality is that in all 3 years of his tenure at that university Rajiv had not passed a single examination. He had therefore to leave Cambridge without a certificate. Sonia too had the same benevolent treatment. She was stated to be a student in Cambridge. Such a description is calculated to mislead Indians. She was a student in Cambridge all right but not of the University of Cambridge but of one of those fly-by-night language schools where foreign students come to learn English. Sonia was working as an au pair girl in Cambridge and trying to learn English at the same time. And surprise of surprises, Rajiv was even cremated as per Vedic rites in full view of India's public. This is the Nehru dynasty that India worships, and now an Italian leads a prestigious national party because of just one qualification, being married into the Nehru family. Maneka Gandhi itself is being accepted by the non-Congress parties not because she was a former model or an animal lover, but for her links to the Nehru family. Saying that an Italian should not lead India will amount to narrow-mindedness, but if Sania Mano, Sonia, had served India like say Mother Teresa or Annie Besant, i.e. in any way on her own rights, then all Indians should be proud of her just as how proud we are of Mother Teresa. Nehru wrote letters to Edwina, after she left India, until her death. In his letters, Nehru often sought Edwina's advice on matters of governance and strategy, according to British author Janet Morgan, who was given access to the correspondence by the Mountbatten family. Morgan was given a small box weighing more than 5 pounds. The box contained all the letters Nehru wrote to Edwina between 1948 and 1960. A few of them even had a rose pressed between the pages. According to Morgan, in one of those letters, Pandit Nehru apparently wrote about the embarrassment V.K. Krishna Menon, India's first High Commissioner to the Court of St. James, had become. Pamela Mountbatten, daughter of Lord Mountbatten and Edwina, in an interview to Karan Thapar on Devil's Advocate on CNN-IBN News Channel, said that the Edwina-Nehru relationship was also of use to her father. And that Lord Mountbatten often appealed to Panditji given the influence Edwina had, This was particularly useful while handling tricky situations like Kashmir. In a letter to his daughter, Patricia, Mountbatten wrote, "She and Jawaharlal are so sweet together, they really dote on each other in the nicest way, and Pammy and I are doing everything we can to be tactful and help. Mummy has been incredibly sweet lately and we've been such a happy family." Years later, daughter Pamela Mountbatten Hicks talked to the BBC another mother's relationship with Nehru. "It was a very, very deep love that lasted for 12 years, she said before refuting the rumor that they might have been lovers. "It was a really emotional love. An affair one thinks of as physical. This was not, it was an amazing, amazing friendship." Nehru wrote letters to Lady Mountbattens almost every day for the rest of her life. Lady Pamela Mountbatten Hicks, who read Nehru's letters to her mother, described them as very tender. In Jaipur to attend a literature festival, Sagal, daughter of Nehru's sister Vijayalakshmi Pandit, sparked off yet another debate on Nehru's relations with Edwina Mountbatten. Is Congress President Sonia Gandhi preventing an important piece of Indian history from coming to light? Nayanthara Sagal, Jawaharlal Nehru's niece, thinks so. In Jaipur to attend a literature festival, Sagal, daughter of Nehru's sister Vijayalakshmi Pandit, sparked off yet another debate on Nehru's relations with Edwina Mountbatten when she said Sonia was against the publication of the first Prime Minister's letters to the last Viceroy's wife. The letters between Nehru and Edwina are being kept under wraps by the copyright holders of his works. The Mountbattens were not against publishing them, Sagal said. The issue started when Catherine Clement, author of Edwina and Nehru, a novel, asked Sagal who in the Nehru-Gandhi family was against the publication of the letters. "It is Sonia," Sagal answered, "or maybe Rahul has them now, I don't know." Sagal told Clement she had spoken to Sonia, telling her that it is a pity not to publish the letters. "But, I think Sonia was afraid and I could see her point. She felt that the political opposition might try to gain advantage out of it." When Clement asked what political advantage opposition parties can have, Sagal said, "As I said, our national leaders are not supposed to have sex organs. If it is proved that Nehru had them, then it would be a disaster. I hope very much that those letters come to light. My mother had read many of them and she said they were very beautiful, and they are literature." While being evasive about whether Nehru and Edwina had a physical relationship, both Clement and Sagal agreed that whatever they had between them was special. Whether they went to bed or not is pure conjecture. "No one really knows about it, except them," Sagal said. Clement quoted a letter from Edwina to her husband Lord Mountbatten in which she wrote, "Those are love letters in a sense, so you yourself realize a strange relationship, most of it spiritual, that exists between us. Jawaharlal has obviously meant a great deal in my life, and I think I in his too." After Lady Mountbatten's death in 1960, she was buried at sea. Prime Minister Nehru sent a frigate from the Indian Navy to attend her funeral and cast a wreath into the ocean on his behalf. Also, Nehru had love affair with Sarojini Naidu's daughter Padmaja Naidu, whom Nehru got appointed as the governor of Bengal. It is revealed that he used to keep her portrait in his bedroom, which Indira would often remove. It caused some tension between father and daughter. Also, Nehru had an affair with a sannyasin from Banaras named Shraddha Mata in 1949, in a convent in Bangalore. A son was born and he was kept at a Christian missionary boarding school. His date of birth is estimated to be May 30, 1949. In 1929, Nehru father Motilal made a report. After that, Muslims in India demanded new country. Then Jinnah, who was in Congress party, was forced to join Muslim League. Nehru was so eager to take position of Prime Minister, created differences with Jinnah. Nehru even didn't he thought of poor people who died in civil war between Hindus vs Muslims. The Nehru Report 1928. The Government of India Act 1919 was essentially transitional in character. Under Section 84 of the said Act, a statutory commission was to be appointed at the end of 10 years to determine the next stage in the realization of self-rule in India. Accordingly, the Simon Commission was sent to the subcontinent under the command of Sir John Simon. All members of the commission were British. This was regarded as highly insulting to the Indians and immediate protest was raised from all the important political parties. When the Simon Commission arrived, the local masses welcomed it with slogans of "Go back Simon." All the major political parties of subcontinent, except the Shafi League of Punjab, boycotted the Simon Commission. After the failure of Simon Commission, there was no alternative for the British government but to ask the local people to frame a constitution for themselves. They knew that the Congress and Muslim League were the two main parties and that they both had serious difference of opinions. Birkenhead, Secretary of State for Indian Affairs, threw the ball in the Indian politicians' court, and asked them to draw a draft of the forthcoming act on which both Hindus and Muslims could agree. The Indian leaders accepted the challenge and for this purpose, the All-Parties Conference was held at Delhi in January 1928. More than 100 delegates of almost all the parties of the subcontinent assembled and participated in the conference. Unfortunately, the leaders were not able to come to any conclusion. The biggest hindrance was the issue of the rights of minorities. The second meeting of the All-Parties Conference was held in March the same year, but the leaders still had their differences and again were not able to reach a conclusion. The only work done in this conference was the appointment of two subcommittees. But due to the mutual differences between Muslims and Hindus, the committees failed to produce any positive result. When the All-Parties Conference met for the third time in Bombay on May 19, 1928, there was hardly any prospect of an agreed constitution. It was then decided that a small committee should be appointed to work out the details of the constitution. Motilal Nehru headed this committee. There were 9 other members in this committee including 2 Muslims, Syed Ali Imam and Joab Qureshi. The committee worked for 3 months at Allahabad and its memorandum was called the Nehru Report. The chairman joined hands with the Hindu Mahasabha and unceremoniously quashed the recent Congress acceptance of the Delhi proposals. The Nehru Report recommended that a Declaration of Rights should be inserted in the Constitution assuring the fullest liberty of conscience and religion. The following were the recommendations advanced by the Nehru Report. 1. India should be given the status of a dominion. 2. There should be federal form of government with residuary powers vested in the center. 3. India should have a parliamentary form of government headed by a prime minister and 6 ministers appointed by the governor-general. 4. There should be bicameral legislature. 5. There should be no separate electorate for any community. 6. System of weightage for minorities was as bad as that of separate electorates. 7. Reservation of Muslim seats could be possible in the provinces where Muslim population was at least 10%, but this was to be in strict proportion to the size of the community. 8. Muslims should enjoy 1/4 representation in the central legislature. 9. Sindh should be separated from Bombay only if the committee certified that it was financially self-sufficient. 10. The NWFP should be given full provincial status. 11. A new Kannarese-speaking province Carnatic should be established in South India. 12. Hindi should be made the official language of India. The recommendations of the Nehru Report went against the interests of the Muslim community. It was an attempt to serve Hindu predominance over Muslims. The Nehru Committee's greatest blow was the rejection of separate electorates. If the report had taken into account the Delhi proposals, the Muslims might have accepted it. But the Nehru Committee did not consider the Delhi proposals at all while formulating their report. The Muslims were asking for 1/3 representation in the center while Nehru Committee gave them only 1/4 representation. It is true that 2 demands of Muslims were considered in the Nehru Report but both of them incomplete. It was said that Sindh should be separated from Bombay but the condition of self-economy was also put forward. It demanded constitutional reforms in NWFP but Baluchistan was overlooked in the report. Of the 2 Muslim members of the Nehru Committee, Syed Ali Imam could attend only one meeting due to his illness and Joab Qureshi did not endorse views of the committee on the issue of Muslim representation in legislature. Thus the Nehru Report was nothing else than a Congress document and thus totally opposed by Muslims of the subcontinent. The Hindus under Congress threatened the government with a disobedience movement if the Nehru Report was not implemented into the Act by December 31, 1929. This Hindu attitude proved to be a milestone in the freedom movement of the Muslims. It also proved to be a turning point in the life of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. After reading the Nehru Report, Jinnah announced a parting of the ways. The Nehru Report reflected the inner prejudice and narrow-minded approach of the Hindus. 14 points of Jinnah 1929. A positive aspect of Nehru Report was that it resulted in the unity of divided Muslim groups. In a meeting of the Council of All India Muslim League on March 28, 1929, members of both the Shafi League and Jinnah League participated. Quaid-i-Azam termed the Nehru Report as a Hindu document, but considered simply rejecting the report as insufficient. He decided to give an alternative Muslim agenda. It was in this meeting that Quaid-i-Azam presented his famous 14 points. These points were as follows. 1. The form of the future constitution should be federal with the residuary powers vested in the provinces. 2. A uniform measure of autonomy shall be granted to all provinces. 3. All legislatures in the country and other elected bodies shall be constituted on the definite principle of adequate and effective representation of minorities in every province without reducing the majority in any province to a minority or even equality. 4. In the central legislative, Muslim representation shall not be less than 1/3. 5. Representation of communal groups shall continue to be by means of separate electorate as at present, provided it shall be open to any community at any time to abandon its separate electorate in favor of a joint electorate. 6. Any territorial distribution that might at any time be necessary shall not in any way affect the Muslim majority in the Punjab, Bengal and the Northwest Frontier Province. 7. Full religious liberty, i.e. liberty of belief, worship and observance, propaganda, association and education, shall be guaranteed to all communities. 8. No bill or any resolution or any part thereof shall be passed in any legislature or any other elected body if 3/4 of the members of any community in that particular body oppose such a bill, resolution or part thereof on the ground that it would be injurious to the interests of that community, or in the alternative, such other method is devised as may be found feasible and practicable to deal with such cases. 9. Sindh should be separated from the Bombay Presidency. 10. Reforms should be introduced in the Northwest Frontier Province and Baluchistan on the same footing as in the other provinces. 11. Provision should be made in the constitution giving Muslims an adequate share, along with the other Indians, in all the services of the state and in local self-governing bodies having due regard to the requirements of efficiency. 12. The Constitution should embody adequate safeguards for the protection of Muslim culture and for the protection and promotion of Muslim education, language, religion, personal laws, and Muslim charitable institution, and for their due share in the grants in aid given by the state and by local self-governing bodies. 13. No cabinet, either central or provincial, should be formed without there being a proportion of at least 1/3 Muslim ministers. 14. No change shall be made in the constitution by the central legislature except with the concurrence of the states' contribution of the Indian Federation. The Council of the All India Muslim League accepted 14 points of the Quaid. A resolution was passed according to which no scheme for the future constitution of the Government of India would acceptable to the Muslims be unless and until it included the demands of the Quaid presented in the 14 points. Nehru Jinnah were responsible for division of India because wanted to be Prime Minister of India. In 1948 he foolishly gave Kashmir matter to United Nations without caring people. It was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel who made India as a republic, merged Hyderabad and Junagadh. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee were competitors of Jawaharlal Nehru for the post of Prime Minister of India, and both of them died under mysterious circumstances. The Great Calcutta Killings 1946, Noakhali and Tripoli Massacre. Those days Nehru was spending his honeymoon with Edwina in Shimla. Nehru wanted to be the Prime Minister of India, So he blackmailed Gandhiji that if he would not support him then would dissolve Indian National Congress and break India into 545 parts. That was the real plan of Britishers. Gandhiji always said that Congress party should be dissolved after independence, but Nehru gained this for his political ambitions. Gandhiji was in Calcutta in August 15, 1947 when Nehru was celebrating Independence Day in New Delhi. He also refused to join UN offer of India's permanent membership and gave this to China in 1950. Greater transparency in the working of the Security Council is necessary. The choice of permanent members should be more democratic and based on objective criteria, and the veto needs to be abolished. Bhaskar Balakrishnan. Reform of the United Nations, especially the issue of enlarging the Security Council, has been a major objective for India and several other aspiring permanent members. It is widely accepted that the Security Council needs enlargement, but there are serious differences over how to accomplish this. Without broader and stronger international cooperation, key global challenges cannot be met, whether in security, economy, or environment. The recent moves for G8, E8, and G20, to discuss major challenges outside the UN forums are in itself a tacit admission of this. The UN itself is seen as incapable of tackling new challenges and meeting expectations of the civil society, and has lost credibility and public support. One formula, promoted by the G4, India, Brazil, Japan, and Germany, calls for addition of 6 more permanent seats, for the 4 sponsors plus 2 more for Africa, and 4 non-permanent seats. A rival proposal, promoted by regional rivals of the G4, is called the Uniting for Consensus, UFC, proposal, seeks to add 20 non-permanent seats with 2-year terms and a required majority of 16. The African group has proposed enlarging the council by 11 seats, with 2 permanent seats with veto and 5 non-permanent seats reserved for Africa. Some African countries are opposed to permanent seats for countries such as South Africa and Nigeria. This has prevented progress in unifying the G4 and African positions. The existence of permanent members with veto power makes the UN inherently non-democratic. The P5 does not have to seek election and thus can afford to ignore the concerns of the vast majority of member states. Increasing the number of permanent members, some argue, would only make the democratic deficit worse. In most other UN agencies, the size of the executive bodies is around 15% of the membership, and the major powers are re-elected each time under various regional arrangements. The diverse proposals reflect differences and rivalries among the various aspirants for council membership. Some P5 members such as the US and China are not keen on expansion of the council and relish this discord as it makes reform more difficult and preserves the status quo. The recent change in the US administration, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the global economic downturn have preoccupied the major players, and the case for UN reform has been put on the back burner. India's bid. India has been seeking support for a permanent seat in the enlarged council. Many countries have supported India's claim, including some of the P5. India's campaign for an elected seat for 2011-12 has gained momentum. India has so far won an elected seat 6 times, compared with Brazil, 9, Germany, 4, and Japan, 10. There is thus nothing strange in seeking an elected seat while campaigning for a permanent seat. The UN was created in 1945, at the end of World War II, embodying the hopes and aspirations of people emerging from a terrible war. But the new UN was non-democratic, giving permanent membership with veto power in the Security Council to the US, Britain, France, the USSR, and Republic of China, represented then by Chiang Kai-shek regime, the Allies victors in the war. The negotiations leading to the UN Charter were replete with unsavory incidents of arm twisting and coercive diplomacy, including spying on delegations participating at the conferences during this period. The Allies soon fell out, and the Cold War period saw the US and USSR exploit their veto power to the hilt, vetoing membership of states and in other disputes involving peace and security. Ironically, around 1955, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was offered the disputed Chinese Permanent Security Council seat by the US to keep out the People's Republic of China, and he also was sounded out by the USSR Prime Minister, Nikolai Bulganin, to allow China to take the seat while giving India a sixth permanent seat in the Security Council. Nehru rejected this offer in deference to China. History may have been different if this offer had been subjected to serious negotiations. Now, 54 years later, we are struggling for this seat. While the UN membership expanded considerably from 45 in 1945 to 192 today, the Security Council was expanded only from 11, in 1945, to 15, in 1965, and the required majority from 7, in 1945, to 9, at present, with no changes in the P5. The Council has become increasingly opaque and secretive in its functioning, with the P5 often working to promote their individual national interests. The other Council members and the General Assembly have become increasingly marginalist. Adding to the woes is the pressure by the UN's largest contributors, who use the threat of withholding contributions to blackmail and pressurize the UN and its Secretariat. Such behavior by largest taxpayers in a state would attract penalties, but not so in the case of the UN, which is regularly reduced to penury. Comparison with ILO. Compare the UN with the International Labour Organization, ILO, set up 90 years ago, as an agency of the League of Nations. It has survived World War II and is the only international body where civil society, employers and workers, members have voting strength equal to governments, with a unique tripartite structure with each body composed of government, workers, employers representatives in the ratio of 2:1:1. The ILO's executive body, the governing body, is composed of 56 members, including 14 representatives each of workers and employers, and 28 of governments, of which, 10 are from countries of chief industrial importance. The list of these 10 countries is drawn up by a committee of statistical experts, and takes into account various indicators. These 10 states: Brazil, China, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, the Russian Federation, the UK and the US are permanent members of the governing body, but have no veto powers. The P5 have been explicitly designated by name in Article 23 of the Charter. This article still names the USSR and China. Charter amendments require the consent of the P5, so it is impossible for other UN member states to force the P5 to agree to a charter amendment. Forgotten is the fact that China's P5 seat was made possible by a General Assembly resolution, while Russia's P5 seat was based on UN member states' consent. Reform agenda. What reforms could save the UN from fading into irrelevance? It would seem that giving civil society a role in the UN with voting capabilities could give it a greater relevance, robustness, and credibility. Delays or non-payment of contributions should attract severe interest penalties. Greater transparency in the working of the Security Council is necessary. The choice of permanent members should be more democratic and based on objective criteria, and the veto needs to be abolished. How can pressure be mounted for UN reforms? First, 7 of the non-permanent members could block decisions of the Council if enough solidarity and unity can be built up. Second, the more democratic General Assembly can assert itself. Under the Uniting for Peace resolution, within 24 hours of a stalemate in the Security Council, the General Assembly can meet to consider the matter. Either 7 members of the Security Council or a majority of the members of the General Assembly can invoke the Uniting for Peace resolution. He was scared of truth, was trying to weaken Indian army. In 1961 he went to China and gave statement that Tibet is not a part of China but part of Indian occupied Tibet. Sikkim is part of India, without boosting Indian army that brought China attack on India on 1962. Government of India has not built a memorial of Jawaharlal Nehru at his birthplace 77 Mirganj in Allahabad, because it is a brothel. The entire locality is a well-known red light area since long. It has not become a brothel recently, but it has been a brothel even before Jawaharlal Nehru's birth. A portion of the same house was sold by his father Motilal Nehru to a prostitute named Lalajan, and it came to be known as Imambada. If you have some doubt, you may visit the place. Several dependable sources and also encyclopedia.com and Wikipedia say this. Motilal Nehru along with his family, later shifted to Anand Bhawan. Remember that Anand Bhawan is Jawaharlal Nehru's ancestral house and not his birthplace. As per the book The Great Divide, Muslim Separatism and Partition, ISBN 13-9788121205917, by S.C. But Jawaharlal Nehru's sister Vijayalakshmi eloped with her father's employee Syed Hussain. Then Motilal Nehru forcefully took her back and got her married with another man named Ranjit Pandit. Jawaharlal Nehru's second sister Krishna Huthi Singh also mentions in her memoirs that her grandfather was the city Kotwal of Delhi prior to 1857's uprising when Bahadur Shah Zafar was still the Sultan of Delhi. Jawaharlal Nehru, in his autobiography, states that he have seen a picture of his grandfather which portrays him like a Mughal nobleman. The Urdu literature of the 19th century, especially the works of Khwaja Hassan Nizami, are full of the miseries that the Mughals and Mohammedans have to face then. They also describe how Mughals escaped to other cities to save their lives. In all probability, Jawahar Nehru's Mughal grandfather and his family were among them. Truth of Amethi. After death of Raja, King, of Itaba, Uttar Pradesh, Rani, Queen, of Itaba wanted to save her kingdom because she had no child. She asked Mubarak Ali and Motilal to fight her case. They asked her for Rs.500,000. The Rani paid in full. The case was lost in the lower court. They then told the Rani that they would fight the case in the higher court. They took another 500,000. The case was lost in the higher court also. They then told the Rani that they would fight the case in the Privy Council in London. They demanded up and down plain fare, a fat fee for themselves and a fee for a British advocate to fight the case in London. The smart British advocate said that the Rani could get hold of an infant of the appropriate age and say to the entire world that she was pregnant at the time of the Raja's death. This idea worked and the Rani's kingdom was saved. This stupid Rani thought that Mubarak Ali and Motilal had saved her. She gave them a lot of money and gave Amethi, Uttar Pradesh, a part of her kingdom to Motilal. Ever since the members of the Nehru family have been behaving as if Amethi is their private property. Indira Gandhi Pradarshani Nehru, Indira Gandhi, was admitted in Oxford University but driven out from there for non-performance. She was then admitted to Shantiniketan University but, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore chased her out for bad conduct. Jawaharlal Nehru's only daughter was Pradarshani Nehru, who later married to Feroz Khan, was from the Junagadh area of Gujarat. A grocer supplied wines, etc. to Anand Bhawan, previously known as Ishrath Manzil, which once belonged to a lawyer named Mubarak Ali. Motilal Nehru was earlier an employee of Mubarak Ali. Feroz Khan was then in England with Pradarshani Gandhi, married in a London mosque. Feroz's mother's family name was Gandhi, often associated with Parsis, and this was changed to Gandhi, sometime before his wedding with Indira Gandhi, by an affidavit. But Indira Gandhi married to another man named Muhammad Yunus. After Rajiv's birth, Indira and Feroz lived separately, but they were not divorced. Indira Priyadarshini Nehru changed her name to Maimuna Begum. The book The Life of Indira Nehru Gandhi, ISBN 9780007259304, by Catherine Frank sheds light on some of Indira Gandhi's other love affairs. It is written that Indira's first love was with her German teacher at Shantiniketan. Later she had affair with M.O. Mathai, father's secretary, then Dhirendra Brahmachari, her yoga teacher, and at last with Dinesh Singh, foreign minister. Former Foreign Minister Kanutvar Singh made an interesting revelation about Indira Gandhi's affinity to the Mughals in his book Profile and Letters, ISBN 812-910-2358. It states that in 1968 Indira Gandhi as the Prime Minister of India went on an official visit to Afghanistan. Nutvar Singh accompanied her as an IFS officer in duty. Indira Gandhi visit Babur's burial place and told Singh, "Today we have had our brush with history." Worth to mention that Babur was the founder of Mughal rule in India, from which the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty have descended. How Indira Gandhi favors Dhirubhai Ambani, in the book, Banned in India, the Polyester Prince. In 1971 Indira Gandhi gave support to Mutawahana in East Pakistan. She also ignored 40 lakh illegal immigrants in northeast. Now in West Bengal illegal Bangladeshi are more than 2 crore. She also released 90,000 Pakistani soldiers in 1971 war without taking Indian soldiers who were captured by Pakistani army. This kind of ignorance and negligence on northeast India creates extremism and militancy in India in 1980s. She also failed to stop huge amount of corruption that brought 1977 revolution under J.P. Narayan, but she arrogantly made emergency in 1977. It is a known fact that after Rajiv's birth, Indira Gandhi and Feroz Gandhi lived separately, but they were not divorced. The book The Nehru Dynasty, ISBN 10-8186092005, by K. N. Rao states that the second son of Indira, or Mrs. Feroz Khan, known as Sanjay Gandhi, was not the son of Feroz Gandhi. He was the son of another Muslim gentleman named Muhammad Yunus. Sanjay Gandhi, incidentally, Sanjay Gandhi, a playboy, marriage with the Sikh girl Menaka, modeled for Bombay dyeing wearing just a towel, took place in M.D. Yunus showed unhappiness in his book Persons, Passions and Politics, house in New Delhi. Interestingly, Sanjay Gandhi's marriage with the Sikh girl Menaka took place in Muhammad Yunus' house in New Delhi. Apparently Yunus was unhappy with the marriage as he wanted to get him married with a Muslim girl of his choice. It was Muhammad Yunus who cried the most when Sanjay Gandhi died in plane crash. In Yunus' book, Persons, Passions and Politics, ISBN 10-070-691-0176, one can discover that baby Sanjay was circumcised following Islamic custom. Rajiv Gandhi was son of Muhammad Yunus, changed his religion to become a Catholic to marry Sania Mano of Turin, Italy. Rajiv became Roberto. His daughter's name is Bianca, Priyanka, and son's name is Rahul. He mislead people of India that he was a mechanical engineer, but he not passes a single exam. He gave press conference in London after Prime Minister that he was a Parsi but cremated as per Vedic rites in full view of India's public. From 1962 to 1965, he was enrolled for a mechanical engineering course at Trinity College, Cambridge. But, he left Cambridge without a degree because, he could not pass exams. Next year in 1966, he joined Imperial College, London, but, again left it without a degree. When her mother Indira died in 1984, he has given full support to Congress supporters in Delhi to spread pogroms in Delhi, gave huge amount of money, liquors, arms to congressmen to spread violence against Sikhs only for vote bank politics, played with emotions of people. In 1989 he also supported Ayodhya issue to gain Hindu vote. Later Congress government, P.V. Narasimha Rao, ordered to demolish Babri Masjid. In 1989 when Congress government was in centre and in Bhopal, Rajiv Gandhi supported to flee Bhopal gas tragedy suspect Enron owner Quadrikai. In 1990 he ordered Indian Army to do nothing against extremism. Later terrorists killed thousands of Hindus in Kashmir, and 4 lakh forced to migrate. Because at that time Congress was in no mood to displease their vote bank people and party. Sonia Gandhi had intense friendship with Madhvaraj Scindia in the UK, which continued even after her marriage. One night at 2 a.m. in 1982, Madhvaraj Scindia and Sonia Gandhi were caught alone together when their car met an accident near IIT Delhi main gate. 2G scam in 2008 and SwanDB reality group ties with Edisai Latgroa of Dubai where underworld Don Dawood Ibrahim also invested. Sister of Sonia Gandhi Anushka and Nadia also got benefit from 2G scam. First Bofors scam in 1987 with Italian businessman and relative of Sonia Gandhi family in Italy. Now 10 billion defense deal corruption and planning to buy outdated fighter planes from Italy. Sonia Gandhi and Mukesh Ambani involved in KG Basin $10 billion scam. Also Sonia Gandhi planning to target and kill Bihari Hindus in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Madhya Pradesh by using communal violence bill. Sonia links with Zakir Naik, who runs Islamic Peace Foundation and Peace TV, illegally running in India, and links with Indian Mujahideen. Congress General Sasiritri Digvijay Singh in Peace TV function. Rahul Gandhi in 1992, Sonia Gandhi revived her citizenship of Italy under Article 17 of the Italian citizenship law. Under Italian law, Rahul and Priyanka are Italian citizens because Sonia was an Italian citizen when she gave birth to them. Rahul Gandhi's Italian is better than his Hindi. Rahul Gandhi is an Italian citizen is relevant from the fact that on September 27, 2001 he was detained by the FBI at Boston Airport, USA for traveling on an Italian passport. If a law is made in India that important posts like that of President and Prime Minister should not be held by a person of foreign origin, then Rahul Gandhi automatically disqualifies to contend for the post of Prime Minister. After finishing school education, Rahul Gandhi got admission at the St. Stephen's College in New Delhi, not on merit basis but on sports quota of rifle shooting. After a brief stay there in 1989-90, he did his BA from Rollins College, Florida in 1994. Just for doing BA one need not go to the US. The very next year, in 1995 he got M.Phil. degree from Trinity College, Cambridge. On December 31, 2004, John Amity, a retired college professor in Alappuzha district of Kerala, contended that action should be taken against Rahul Gandhi and his girlfriend Juvanita alias Veronica for staying together for 3 days at a resort in Kerala. On December 3, 2006, Rahul Gandhi along with his foreigner friends gang raped then 24-year-old Sukanya Devi at a VIP guest house in Amethi. She is the daughter of Balram Singh and Sumitra Devi of 23 to 12 Medical Chowk, Sanjay Gandhi Marg, Amethi, Raebareli, Uttar Pradesh. Police refused to register complaint. The National Commission for Women headed by Dr. Girija Vyas acted as a Congress party office. The victim and her family is missing since then. In 2008 during 26/11s when the whole country was tense about how to tackle the Mumbai terror, Rahul Gandhi was lavishly partying with his friends till 5 a.m. Rahul Gandhi advises austerity for all Congress members. He says it is the duty of all politicians to be austere. On the other hand, he has a ministerial bungalow with a fully equipped gym. He is a regular member of at least 2 of the Delhi's poshest gyms, one of which is 5-star rated. Rahul Gandhi's trip to Chennai in 2009 to campaign for austerity cost the party more than Rs 1 crore. Such inconsistencies show that initiatives taken by Rahul Gandhi are not his own but work out of his party men only. Schweitzer Illustriert, a Swiss news magazine published on November 19, 1991, has alleged in an old issue that the Soviet intelligence agency KGB had deposited US $2.2 billion in a Swiss bank account in 1985 in the minor account of Rahul Gandhi managed by his mother Sonia Gandhi. Janata Party President Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who had secured an order from the Delhi High Court to the CBI to investigate alleged receipt of slush money by late former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's family, has cited a November 1991 issue of the Swiss magazine in support of his charge. He has further claimed that the payments were authorized by CPSU by a resolution CPSU/CC/No11228/3 dated 20/12/1985 and the same was also endorsed by the USSR Council of Ministers in Directive No 2633/Rs dated 20/December 1985. He also claimed that these payments had been coming since 1971 as the payments received by Sonia Gandhi's family have been audited in CPSU/CC Resolution No 11187/22 updated October 12, 1984. Today, with evidence, see how the money of the common Hindus is spreading in Congress Muslims, on the pretext of secularism. His vote bank can be strengthened and secular Hindus are still unaware and voting for anti-national parties like Gulam. 1. millions of Hajj subsidy for Muslims not for Umrah Yatra. 2. Tax on levy of subsidy to cow slaughterhouses, cess. 3. Tax haul on free land, electricity, and grant temples of mosque and madrasas. 4. No crackers in Diwali, DJ banned in Navaratri but loudspeakers allowed in Namas. 5. Ration cards for Bangladeshi Muslims, not for Pakistani Hindus. 6. Rupees 30,000 for Muslim students, not for Hindu students. 7. Regular electricity supply in Ramadan, heavy reduction in Diwali. 8. Reservations in college, in jobs for Muslims not for poor Hindus. No interest loans to Muslims, not for Hindus. 9. VIP treatment to terrorist Abu Salem, not for Sadhvi Pragya, in jail. 10. Rupees 50,000 for Muslim girls' marriage, not for Hindu girls. 11. Pension to priests of mosque, not for temple priests. 12. Pensions of Pakistani terrorists. Indian Army pays tax on the Hindu light bill, water bar, home tax, income tax, Umrah Yatra, and Congress in the name of secularism. It is in the Muslims. When the country was divided, the government. Who was that? When the Pak made Kashmir. Who was the government? When the attack on Mumbai, then the government. Who was that? When China landed the government then. Who was that? When the heroic soldiers chopped off. Who took the government to Pakistan then? Bofor's scam happened when the government. Who was that? Karniko's uniform cost money. Who was the government? Sardar's massacre took the government. Who was that? Country Basmati by settling Shimla. When the land was given to Pak then who was the government? Hindu shedding of blood in Assam. Who was that? Kashmiri Panditos were killed then government. Who was that? Commonwealth scam happened when the government. Who was that? Coal scam happened when the government was. When the 2G scam happened then what was the government? Satyam Shivan Sundaran from Doordarshan Mano. What was the removal government? Satyam FJ from Indian currency. Who was the removal government? Insulted Vande Matram. Who was the government? A look at the causes of family. Lal Bahadur Shastri, who came in Indira Gandhi's way, died in a mysterious condition in Tashkent. Shyamapradhan Mukherjee and Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who were in danger for Nehru, were killed and the police did not cover the conspiracy till today. Bir Bahadur Singh, who became the challenger for Rajiv Gandhi, died in Paris. While he had no heart problem. 2 people dared to contest the election of Congress president against Sonia Gandhi. Rajesh Pilot and Jitendra Pradhan. Rajesh Pilot's car disappeared after being hit by a mysterious truck. And Jitendra Pradhan died in Circuit House of Bareilly. Prior to this, Sitaram Kesri, who challenged Sonia, was expelled from the party. Madhvarav Scindia, who proved to be a threat to Rahul Gandhi, was killed in a plane accident. While his plane was brand new and there was no problem in it and it was flying in any season. The system was installed. Rajiv Dikshit, who became a threat to Congress and foreign companies, died after death. His body became black, which only happens after giving poison or current. News of Rajiv Bhai's death, no media channels have seen friends, after which this holy family is blessed with the blessings of which deity, raises the voice against or on the way. Comes to death in his mysterious circumstances. Under Section 30A of the Constitution, reading of Gita Ramayana is prohibited in Vidyalayas. The Bible teaches Quran and Christians in Madrasa. All rights of 70% of the government's rights, mosque and march on Hindus and shrines of Hindus and shrines are entitled to them, as well as government grants. Tax on the journey of Baba Amarnath, but the subsidy on Hajj travels. If you want to move this message forward, just do it now. Jai Hind.